Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday afternoon. Hope yours is going well. We've got another Seahawks video to get to today, but first, we just hit 2,840 subscribers to the YouTube channel. I want to give a shout out to all the subscribers, and a special tip of the cap goes to the channel members, especially elite channel members Brendon, Mikel, Scott, Todd, Hasher for MVP, VGK Tigers 75, Salacious, Crumb, Ryguy, Brendon Nelson's Haircut, the Reno, and ItsHoof. All right. So, with the happenings of yesterday with regard to the Seattle Seahawks, specifically the signings of two backup linemen in Jordan Simmons and Cedric Ogbuhi, it seems feasible that the Seattle Seahawks have essentially concluded their business along the offensive line. The offensive line we have right now is the offensive line that we will be bringing into the 2021 season. So, with that in mind, I think this warrants some discussion because I think there's still some doubt over whether or not this offensive line is good enough. And the reason why that is should be pretty clear when you take a look at the line. So, let's go over here and take a look at the offensive line in its current state. So, let's go over this just so we're all on the same page here. Left tackle, Dwayne Brown. Left guard, Gabe Jackson. Center, Ethan Posick. Right guard, Damian Lewis. Right tackle, Brandon Shell. Backing them up. Left tackle, Jamarco Jones. Left guard, Jordan Simmons. Center, Kyle Fuller. Right guard, Phil Haynes. And right tackle, Cedric Ogbuhi. There is some flexibility built in here. Gabe Jackson can play right guard. Damian Lewis can play center. Jamarco Jones can play both guard spots and right tackle. Jordan Simmons can play right guard. Philip Haynes can play left guard. And Cedric Ogbuhi can play left tackle. So obviously you can scramble things around in the event of an emergency, but this is the offensive line the Seattle Seahawks currently have going into 2021. And there's a decent chance it is the offensive line that we will end up having when the season starts. Now, looking at this offensive line, you might notice something a little interesting, maybe even a little alarming, depending on what your perspective is on certain things. But yeah, are you starting to notice it yet? Are you looking at this and starting to put together what I'm talking about here? Do you kind of get where I'm going? If not, let me help you out here a little bit. Let me just, yeah, okay, so you see where I'm going here. This is the same offensive line from last year with Mike Upati out and Gabe Jackson put in. Dwayne Brown starting left tackle, that's the same. Ethan Posick, yeah. Damian Lewis, sure. Brandon Shell, yeah. Cedric Ogbuhi is a backup, familiar. Kyle Fuller, he played a couple games. Jordan Simmons played a lot at left guard behind Upati. Jamarco Jones filled in. About the biggest difference we have outside of Gabe Jackson is Phil Haynes didn't really do anything last year because he was hurt, but he was on the team, so at the end of the day, without us necessarily noticing it in a overly obvious way, the Seattle Seahawks are bringing back 9 out of their top 10 offensive linemen. 9 of them were on the team last year, and 8 of them played. And don't get me wrong, upgrading from Mike Upati, who couldn't play 20 consecutive snaps without going back in the blue tent, to Gabe Jackson, who has been relatively durable in his career, is a pretty big deal, and I think that is going to improve the line a good amount. But Gabe Jackson is not an all-pro. He's not even a Pro Bowler. He's had some years where he's been very, very good, but he's not considered to be the greatest guard in the NFL by any stretch of the imaginations, especially not now. So, yeah, this is the same offensive line almost. It's very close, and I don't know if you guys remember, but not that long ago, Russell Wilson, the quarterback who's going to be starting for the Seahawks this year, kind of threw this offensive line under the bus right after the season ended. Again, I want to stress we did improve drastically at left guard, but these are by and large the same guys that Wilson seemed unhappy with. So, are we actually good here? Are we actually satisfied with this? So if you're okay with this, then you're probably a part of the group that thinks the offensive line was pretty good last year and that situational things made them look worse. And if you're noticing this and going, oh, that's a problem, maybe you're part of the latter group. So let's talk about that for a second. There are a lot of metrics that indicate the Seahawks' offensive line last year was pretty good. They were one of 2 or 3 teams in the NFL that had 2 tackles ranked in the top, I think, 15 in pass block win rate. Dwayne Brown and Brandon Shell. Posick had an okay season. Damian Lewis was very nice for a rookie. There are a lot of statistics, advanced metrics that indicate to anybody who's willing to listen to those things that our offensive line was actually probably one of the 10 best in the NFL last year. I think that it's fair to say the offensive line, well, I'll say this. In my estimation, the offensive line was pretty good last year. I think it was a solid offensive line. I think Wilson was holding onto the ball too long, and I think Brian Schottenheimer was not calling good plays to accentuate their strengths. I think he was doing a lot of things that made them look a lot worse than they were. So I personally am okay with this. But let's say you're not, and there are a lot of Seahawks fans who are not okay with that. They think the offensive line was terrible last year. They think they were a big part of the problem, or maybe the biggest part of the problem, if not realistically the only problem. They think that Brandon Shell sucks. They think that Posick is trash, etc., etc. They don't believe in these guys. They don't like Jordan Simmons. They don't like Kyle Fuller, which, okay, that's understandable. They don't like Cedric Ogbuhi, etc., etc. So if you are one of those people and you're looking at this now going, this isn't okay, this is too similar to last year, what can we do? So even though I personally believe the offensive line last year was fine, and I think that this offensive line should be fine as well, let's entertain this for a moment. Because even if you think the offensive line was good last year, there is some stuff to keep in mind here. Dwayne Brown's 1 year older. That's not good for a guy his age. Gabe Jackson has shown signs of slowdown to a certain extent the last 2 years, and some of these backups are very inconsistent. So how can we get better? You really only have 2 options here as I see it. You can't change out Dwayne Brown because he's just too good. I'm sorry. No matter what you think of this offensive line, Dwayne Brown is very, very good. Can't swap out Gabe Jackson because you just traded for him, and that would be stupid. And you can't swap out Damian Lewis because he has too much promise. You have to ride it out with him for at least a couple seasons. So that leaves us with 2 guys who could be swapped out for something better. Ethan Posick and Brandon Shell. So let's talk about options there for a minute. So a little while ago, I ran a poll on my YouTube channel. I think you can still vote in it actually, but we've gotten almost 1,000 votes. The poll question was simple. Who do you want to start at center for the Seahawks in 2021? And I presented 3 options. Ethan Posick, who at that time was the starter to be, a free agent veteran, most likely Austin Blythe or Austin Ryder. Maybe there's 1 or 2 others you could consider, but mostly those 2. And a rookie, specifically a second-round rookie like Creed Humphrey or Landon Dickerson, but maybe 1 or 2 others. As you can see, there is a significant interest in bringing in somebody to challenge Posick for the starting center job. Only 25%, so over 200 people, but exactly a quarter of the respondents wanted Posick to start at center. So 75% of people want the starter at center in 2021 to be someone other than Ethan Posick. Now, as I basically laid out here, there are 2 options if you want to improve here. The first is a free agent veteran player, and over half of poll respondents, 51%, wanted this. So if you go here, here's the first thing you can do if you want to improve the offensive line for 2021. You kick Ethan Posick to a backup role and you bring in Austin Blythe to start, or at least compete to start. We all know that if Posick looks better than Blythe in preseason, then of course he will have earned the job. But in all likelihood, if we brought in Blythe, he would probably be the guy. So this is kind of the first way to improve this offensive line. You bring in a veteran center who has proven to be very good. He knows Shane Waldron's offense, and it works. It makes sense, right? There's a lot of reasons why this would make sense, why this would work. It would improve your depth as well because Posick is not horrible, so you have yourself a better backup center as well. And now you've changed out this entire section of the offensive line with something better. So that should put a lot of people at ease. The other option would be a rookie. So I listed two options here, but my favorite by far, and the only one I'm really enthusiastic about, is Creed Humphrey from Oklahoma. Now, as you can see, only 23% of the responders to this poll wanted a rookie to replace Posick, but it's still a pretty significant number of respondents. Over 200 people voted for this. So here is hypothetical number 2. You take out Posick, put him as a backup, and you bring in Creed Humphrey. So I think it is reasonable, feasible to believe you could draft somebody like a Creed Humphrey and have him be better as a rookie than Posick would be as a fifth-year veteran. But I don't think you can necessarily assume it either. So it would definitely be a competition situation, but this is a viable solution to improve the offensive line a little bit as well. You'll notice in both of these scenarios, Kyle Fuller's no longer here because his contract is, I think, non-guaranteed. So it's easy enough to just dump him. But those are your two options at center. Now, let's take a look at another poll I've done recently. Should the Seattle Seahawks move on from Brandon Shell and seek an upgrade at right tackle this offseason? This is the other guy you could swap out. And as you can see, most people voted no. 63% of poll respondents said, no, we're good with Brandon Shell. Let's keep him around. And 37% is still pretty significant, though. We had a couple hundred people say, yeah, I think we can do better than Brandon Shell. So let's spend a moment on that. Now, I'm going to go ahead and dismiss the possibility of bringing in a rookie to take Brandon Shell's job. And the reason why is simple. Right tackle is hard in the NFL. You're playing all the best pass rushers in the league. You're playing the other team's most deadly edge defender most of the time. So to expect a rookie to come in and just dominate is silly. You can expect an interior player to come in as a rookie and play great, but to expect us to use a late second-round pick on a right tackle and have him come in and be better than Shell, who, I'm sorry, is pretty good, pretty decent, I think you're fooling yourself there a little bit. So I will say right here, right now, if you want to replace Shell with somebody significantly better, forget the rookie class. That doesn't mean we shouldn't draft a rookie to replace Shell in 2022, but forget about it for 2021. So if we decide to move on from Shell, this is the only way I can see it working. You cut Shell, you save $3.5 million, and then you put that money plus a little more towards bringing in Mitchell Schwartz, formerly of the Chiefs, famous for having an incredible playoff run 2 years ago to help the Chiefs win the Super Bowl. One of the best right tackles in the league. The Chiefs cut him because of salary cap reasons. So, yeah, this slots in quite well. So Mitchell Schwartz would be an upgrade over Brandon Shell. I think we can all agree on that. He is, as far as I can tell, the only upgrade we could get. Don't forget, anybody we bring in has to learn our system, has to learn how to play with these particular offensive linemen. There will be a little bit of a learning curve. So if we're going to replace Shell, you need to get somebody who is clearly much better. And Mitchell Schwartz is. Mitchell Schwartz is maybe not quite an all-pro at this point in his career, but he's very, very good. And those are the three ways I can see us making a little bit of a change to the offensive line to improve things. I don't think you can do more than one of these hypotheticals. I don't think you can improve center and right tackle. I think if you do that, you're kind of foregoing something else on this team that might be valuable. If you want to do that, we're talking about you'd have to move Reed. You'd have to move Lockett. You might have to move somebody like a Bobby Wagner. It would get very tricky and expensive very quickly. So if you want to make changes to the offensive line from what it is right now, which is this, that's how I see it. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here on that note. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Should we pursue one of these three hypothetical scenarios? If you do, just let me know in the comments. If you're happy with this current offensive line, let me know. What did you think about the offensive line last year? Was it good? Was it okay? Was it bad? Let me know what y'all think. I will see you guys tonight in stream. Peace out. Go Hawks. Team is coming together. The only question is, do we actually like the way it's coming together or not?